TINYpulse was solved a problem that I was personally trying to solve, which is bringing everybody together across all our locations. So we have approximately 40 locations across the country, and about 35, 36 of them are very small offices, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that are completely separated from the rest of the organization. So I was looking for something that could kind of bridge that geographic gap, because we can't have those people. It's just not practical to bring those people into headquarters periodically. It's just cost prohibitive. So I was looking for something that could kind of reach out across the ether and bring people together. And it was really weird, and I was telling some other people from TINYpulse about this, is that the day I was looking for it, I was like Googling like software, employee engagement software. I don't even know exactly what I Googled, but that day I got an email from TINYpulse, a cold email, which seemed very odd. It was exactly what I was looking for. So it just felt very serendipitous. So I went ahead and kind of looked into the tool and started talking to you guys, and liked it. So we signed up. The level of support from TINYpulse has been strong. I think we have no deficiencies there. I think for us, it was a very, not necessarily scary, but it was a very new thing. You know, we're a bank. This is a very progressive tool that a lot of more progressive oriented industries like software are used to doing, but we're not. So it was kind of a leap of faith for us, and there was a certain level of anxiety across the organization. But the people that worked us through committing to doing it and signing up, and then once we signed up and actually launched and walked us through, okay, this is what you're going to do the first week, this is how you manage users, this is how you respond to people. We pretty much had our hand held the whole time, and we certainly felt like we were prepared, so we were very happy with the experience. The monikers we're using here today about a tiny punch, where there's somebody who just vents and just kind of goes completely out in left field about something, those have been shocking. I'm sure a lot of other people have mentioned that. But then there's been also like really kind of like subtle, almost silly things that people have mentioned. Specifically, we have loan officers across the country, and then we have about 85 of them, and we have 5 or 6 what we call junior loan officers, and it's kind of viewed as a career progression where you start as a junior loan officer, you learn how to underwrite, and then you can progress into becoming a loan officer. And just from our staffing point of view, we have some people currently in our junior loan officer position that actually have been loan officers at other institutions, and they're quite experienced. But we didn't have a fit for them, but we really wanted them in the organization, and it was just something that we brought them on board as a junior loan officer. And in TINYpulse, these people are saying, we find the position title junior loan officer incredibly demeaning, because we have experience in the market. We may have been doing this for a decade or more, and we find that the junior title very offensive, which we thought was very strange, because we certainly never intended it to be, and we never would have imagined that anybody would have thought that the title was weird, especially if they applied for that specific position and received it and wanted that position. So it's something as simple as that, and we said, well, what would you call it? If it's not a junior loan officer, it does have certain responsibilities that are lower than what the loan officer does. And so, people threw out suggestions. Call it Loan Officer 1 and Loan Officer 2, or call it, I can't remember what some of the other suggestions were, but something as almost silly as that, it's an easy fix, and then those people are completely happy, and then they can go back and kind of spread the word that, hey, TINYpulse is a great way to get your voice heard. We're still pretty new, we're only a few months into this, but Morgan Neptune is our contact, and she's been very hands-on to say, these are best practices, because, again, we're still kind of learning how to do this, and I guess maybe every company goes through this, but things like, putting TINYpulse as part of the onboarding process in HR, we haven't done that yet. She's like, I would suggest you doing that, because, as you get past the initial launch, and you have new people come on to the organization, they weren't there when we launched TINYpulse. They need to be reiterated that this is a part of our culture and we really want you to participate. So things like that, these little kind of subtle suggestions and best practices, she's been very helpful. Also things like custom questions. We've kind of obsessed on it, and as we kind of work through TinyCon, we're kind of realizing that perhaps we don't need to develop our own content quite as much as we think we do, and to use the curated questions has a lot of value and kind of relieves a burden for us administratively. But we did ask her, we said, can you tell us what some other people have asked custom question-wise? And she gave us a huge list of different questions that people have asked their people, which really started like a conversation or a brainstorming of, oh, that's great. Oh, I would love to do that. Or we would never ask that question. So I thought she's been very helpful there. One metric that has improved within our organization from TINYpulse, we're still pretty new, to be honest with you. We're still overcoming the lack of trust of whether it's anonymous or not. But we have already, certainly the cheers portion has been a huge success, and people are talking about that over and over and over, and people are really engaging that and then getting back in touch with one another and saying thank you for doing that. And then it's created this kind of buzz, which we were very stagnant on, and we have so much to do culture-wise in our organization that just kick-starting kind of this feel-good feeling from everybody praising each other and just acknowledging other people in other offices and trying to bring people together, which was kind of one of the intents of launching with TINYpulse. I would say that's been the biggest positive change so far.